Three, two, one. Alright, everybody, here I'm back again. Wayne Jimenez. Thank you for buying my book. So right now I'm going to show you the size of my canvas. My canvas is 1024 pixels by 724 pixels, and my image size is 650 resolution and 1024 by 724. Okay, so right now I made the canvas smaller because I don't want to keep zooming in and out for you guys too much, and have drawing a little portion of the screen when everything else is open canvas. All right. So what we're going to start right now is we're going to draw Mizu from Universe Traveler Mizu. So once again, the way you hold your pen, so you hold your pen somewhere in the middle, not like this, like you're writing your signature on a piece of paper or you're writing down something. You're going to hold your pen somewhere in the middle, your stylus, so you have more control over it. Sounds weird than having more control than this, but you have a broader stroke if you hold your pen like this. Get yourself all on the wrist. And it's a good idea to, when you're drawing, to draw in your hand, not draw like this. Have your pinky put down onto the screen or your tablet. Remember, this is a Cintiq. It's made by Wacom. There's different sizes. This is an older model. This is a 15X. But there's newer models that go up to 24 inches, and it's an HD touchscreen and all that good stuff. But this is an older Cintiq. I got on eBay for under $300 used, and parts. Pen was another $70, and my computer is under $200. So you don't need a lot of stuff or a lot of money to do what I do. And Autodesk Sketchbook Pro 6 is roughly $59 on the website for download, plus I think like $3 or $4 of tax. Okay, so we're going to draw Mizu. And Mizu, the way I start with Mizu, they basically start with a circle. They do all my heads. And then I'm going to draw roughly a small triangle for the bottom of her face. And this line right here will be where her nose is. This will be where her mouth is. This will be where her eyes are. And she'll be looking off to the right. So you make a line down the middle. And so this line is going to be basically the middle of her head, because she's turned a little. Now, when you're drawing her nose, this will be near the tip of her nose. So her nose will go out, and it'll come down. And this will be the top of her eye, like where her eyebrow is. And so this is the size of her eye. That's in between her eyes. That'll be her other, how big her other eye will be. So usually, when you're drawing a character, the size of the eye will determine the space between the two eyes and the size of the other eye, depending on what perspective they're in. And her eyes are big. Just big round eyes. And I'll have her looking off to the right. So let me change her nose. Put her nose a little lower. And her mouth will fall on this line. And her chin will have to change. And this is all dream of consciousness. This isn't all planned out. I don't have a sketch or a book or a picture I'm looking at to do any of this stuff. Don't forget her eyelid, which will clean this all up when we go to ink. She has a big long chin, and her hair is fun to do. So, also the distance between the eyes are the same. And there's the distance between her ear and her eye should be almost the length of one eyeball. But since she's in perspective, her ear will be a little closer. So her eyebrows can go a little further past her eye itself. And her other ear will be peeking out from the side. I'll draw her neck, which should be straight lines. And her shoulders will come down. Now you can keep this stuff loose. Change it as you go along. Because this is just a pencil. This is just your rough sketches right now. So now her hair, I would usually do on a separate layer. So go to your little page right here with the plus, the green plus symbol, and let go, and you'll get a new layer. And now I'll just do her hair, which she has pretty big hair. First off, she has bangs. Her bangs consist of these triangle shapes. She has a little lock on her sideburns. It would come down and out. And the top of her hair, it's rounded. Since she's in a low perspective, you're gonna put her hair and change a little bit. Now this would be like the ribbon that holds her hair. And I'll put another ribbon over here. is really big. So just keep putting bumps. And since she's laxed, her hair is also laxed. The side of her head, her hair is in a forced perspective, so it will wrap around. And that ribbon was in the wrong place. So now you have Mizu. And you have this also with Mizu. So her hair looks like it needs to be adjusted a little bit. Put some hair in the back. And make sure you save often enough. Right now I'll call this one Learning Manga 002. I saved it as a TIFF. By default, Autodesk Sketchbook 6 usually saves it by default in a TFF. So later on, when I start adding more layers, I'm going to save it as a PSD, a Photoshop PSD. Okay, so now that I have her rough down, see a few changes I'm going to make. Make her neck a little smaller. And so when you're drawing, basically, you know, her body is consisting of the shapes. So I'll show you the shapes that it's consisted of right now. So you have roughly a circle. And then you have a triangle. Let me make these little letters so you can see. And then for her neck, it's a cylinder shape. And basically her shoulders are also a triangle. So it's pretty much simple. It's always shapes when you're drawing. Right now that we have them, we have the opacity a little lower in Sketchbook. You just drop the opacity so you can ink. Right now you might want to label your layers so you don't get lost where you're going. So I'll name the first one Pencil Torso. Second one I'll just label Pencil Hair. And the new layer I'll label Ink. Now, if you want an easy way to ink in Sketchbook Pro 6, there's no real steady vector system here. So what they did create for this version of Sketchbook is they created the steady stroke. What steady stroke does is when you draw, your alignment is steady compared to your freehand, which is more, it's a little shakier than your steady. So let's erase that. Move our canvas back into place. And with the steady stroke on and your ink layer selected, you can start inking. Now this is the time where you figure out what is best for your drawing and where you want to finalize things. So for Mizu, she has a big smile. Let's make her smile a bit. And her chin usually starts, I'm sorry, her cheeks bend at the edge of her mouth. And it comes to a point in the center of her face. And her eyes are big. And one eye seems to be bigger than the other, and it's hard to see where I'm sitting. And then her eyebrows would be higher than her head, following this arc right here for this eyebrow. And this eyebrow is basically just going to have to match and you draw the side of her face. And then her hair comes down. And then her ear. And from the other side, you can see her hair pops out a bit. And then her ear gets hidden right in the way. And since I thinned out her neck before, it's going to make it a little thin. And just draw some clothing on her. Now with that hair, you have two options. You can either draw the same layer, or you can add a new layer and draw on a different layer. For me, I like to stick the ink on one layer. Now if you can see, as I zoom in, overlapping the hair a bit too much, so I'll just go in and just erase those parts that I'm messing up on. And be careful when you erase stuff. with the eraser on your stylus, because the program automatically jumps back to freehand, so you have to keep switching back. It's a steady stroke. Just be aware of that. It does a lot when you zoom in. And when you're going around objects, let's say like this ribbon, you want to curve the edges as they meet at a point like this. Gives the illusion that it has 3 dimensions. Because if you just draw a ribbon and the 2 pieces overlap, it kind of doesn't, it doesn't give the illusion that there's more to it. It kind of just looks like it's a piece of paper just hanging in. You want to sell the idea that there's a 3-dimension to your drawings, even though there isn't. Now if I turn off my pencil, you can see the ink. So let's put our eyes in there as well. We'll have her looking off to the right. And don't forget her eyelid. Now when you're using steady stroke, you have to be careful, because if you stop before the line that you actually want to finish, like let's say her eyelid, you're going to get, the line isn't going to complete. So I'm just going to go in, clean up these lines a bit. And I'm also going to give her some eyelashes. The eyelashes I'll usually use it freehand, and I'll just go as close as I can. To the top of the eye. That's a little sloppy. So I'll just use steady stroke. Steady stroke isn't good for freehand stuff like this. back to my free hand and I'll fill this part in. And for the eyelashes, I'll zoom in. Now when I'm drawing eyelashes, they're basically just peaks. So I make one at the edge a little smaller, the one next to it a little bigger, the one next to it smaller, and then smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And do the same thing over on this side. And for the bottom eyelashes, I'll hit the edges. And I'll zoom out. Alright, this moment I think you should save. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to color. So remember, when you're coloring, you want to use a layer underneath your ink. So your ink will show through the color. It'll be on top of it. So add another layer, the page, the plus sign. The way to do this inside Sketchbook Pro 6 is the little dotted circle on a layer underneath the ink. You press on it, your options will show up, and then you just pull up and the paper with the plus sign. You hit it and you let go. So now we'll just get the color in. So Mizu, she's a little darker skinned. So what I want to do is I want to start with a dark color underneath, cocoa brown, for instance. And now I'll just go in with my airbrush, and I'll start. Not perfect, but I'll start coloring in her eyes and her face and her neck. And then I'll add another layer on top of this. And this will be a lighter color. Let's say a sand color. And I'll basically go over the same thing. So now, with the light skin color on top, I'll grab my soft eraser and I'll figure out where I want the shades and the light to come in from. So let's say the light's coming in from down here. So with my soft brush, I'll start darkening up here, I'll darken on top of her eyelids, the side of her face, where her nose is. Under her eyes a little bit. And this side of her face. Now, since the light spreads out, it goes in all directions. I'll make sure that I get just enough of her face. Remember, the further the part of the object, the darker it will be. So now it appears that the light is shining and hitting her in the face from below. So this is all illuminated. And the way this happens is that using a soft brush creates a nice soft shadow. And so the lighter you go away from the hard parts and you press lighter on your pen, the more separation it gives. Now some parts need a hard shadow, like where her hair is. So you'll take your hard eraser and just go in there. Sometimes nothing shows up because you already went over it. But we can do other things to emphasize the hard shadows after we clean this up and finish. Take the airbrush, get yourself a nice white, off-white color. I use a cool gray number 00 on the Copic library. Make sure that my airbrush isn't too big and it's not too small. Because what I want to do is I want to lighten the side of her face. So I'll just put, since the light is hitting her face over here, the sides of her face will be illuminated more than this side of her face. And I get to her eyes after I finish with this stuff, with lightening her face on the side. Now there's lots of things you can do to get 3 dimensions on your photos. This is one of them. And gradations of different colors from light to dark gives your paintings and your drawings a 3 dimension. And you can go even darker on the side once you put the layers together. Now I want to take my hard eraser. Actually, no. Before I do that, I'll merge the two. So the way you merge the layers, light color layers and the dark color layers, is you click on what layer you want to merge in the center. You drag down and you'll see merge with below. And you click, you lift up your pen, and boom, automatically merged. Now you can go in and you can erase the eye successfully, and it'll turn out whatever your background color is. So you might want to zoom in sometimes to make sure you're not erasing too much and you're not erasing too little. Which right here I've apparently been erasing into the eye color and the skin color that I don't want to erase. So just be aware of how much you're erasing. Just zoom in just enough. Now that you have that erased, you can zoom back out. And what I want to do now is underneath the skin color, which I'll label this skin color now. I use CLR as short, and I'll click Control S to save. So now, underneath the skin color, I want to create a new layer. Click in the center, pull up, you'll see a line, and it says Add Layer. It's a paper with a green plus sign on it. You let go, and you have yourself a new layer. This layer, I want to paint it gray. The reason you paint gray with a fluid bucket is so you can see your color and it pops out. It's going to help you. And when you get to using a color gray within your painting or your drawing, you could always change this color gray. You can lighten it, you can darken it. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to take my hard eraser and I'm just going to start erasing the overflow. Now the reason I use this technique, other than the other technique I'll show you in another video, the other technique is using the lock transparency button. Is that because when you lock the transparency and you use the layer as a mask, since Sketchbook doesn't have its own layer masking system, the closest you'll get to it is locking your transparency, is that you can't use your erasers on that lock layer. Like if you click on this transparency, lock it, you can't use an eraser. You'll get a pop-up message. Transparency of this active layer is locked. Unlock its transparency or select another brush. So you can use brushes, but you can't use erasers. I don't like that. It slows me down, and it just, you can't use the same cool erasing technique that you can if you just do it with 2 different layers or 3 different layers. So it is painstaking, and you are dealing with pixels. since there is no masking system on here. But either way, you're dealing with pixels regardless. And so you just want to make your lines as clean as you can. And I would always suggest that you save often. So let's say after we finish doing this, finish erasing the overspill, we'll click Control S and we'll save. Now depending on how big your file is, will determine how fast and how long it takes to save. So let's also get rid of this stuff right here. And we can also click File, Save. So now that's a much better picture. So we know that our light is coming from the bottom. It's hitting her face. So right now what we want to do is we want to move on to her hair. Now we want to create a layer underneath her skin, so when you do her hair, anything that goes underneath her hair, underneath her skin, I'm sorry, will be in the background. So create another layer. And for Mizu, her hair is kind of pinkish. So we'll choose a nice pink. Remember to start with an underlayer color, which is going to be where her shadow is coming from. And I would use fuchsia, I guess. We'll use our spray paint, make a big, huge brush, and just start. Let me make sure I added a layer. Yes. So, if you're concerned with the ribbons, I'll go in there after I merge these two layers, and I'll do the ribbons. So now you want to create another layer on top of this, a lighter layer. And for this, instead of choosing another color, we can use the color library and drag up and get a light color. You can also use the color picker here to do it, which is called a color puck. So we want a really light color. And basically just go over what we just did. Now we're going to take our soft eraser, and we're going to figure out where we want our shadows to be. So we know the light's coming from here, so this part will be illuminated, but this part will have some darkness to it. So we basically just start erasing. And anything behind our head will be just super dark. We can pick and choose where we want the dark to be. Remember, the louder you press, the more blended it will become. I'll give you different variations on the color until it gets just a regular color. Make a brush smaller and just go into the hair. And for this part of our hair, I'm just going to come into here and I'm going to make it darker. And I'm going to use my airbrush. Now the very edges are probably going to produce a darker color. Be very, very gentle with it. Create some shapes. And the folds will be darker as well. So it's cutting the light. It's cutting the light even more than it would if it was having light shine on it. So now we can go in and we can go grab ourselves our double gray or cool gray number 00. And we can start adding light like we did our face over here. What this is going to do is give it more shape. I believe in Japan they call this style, they call it gauge. I don't really know what's the definition of gauge when it comes to painting digitally in Japan, but that's what they call it. Just make sure you follow the contour of the hair. It gives it some shape. If you go against the contour of the hair, it's gonna be weird looking. So now my hair is done. I would click on save. And go into your layers and then merge them. Now you're going to break out your hard eraser. And you want to zoom in. And you want to go in and you want to erase the overspill. Just make sure you get into those corners. That you're not going to erase them. Make sure you lift up your pen every so often, so it creates another undo inside the program. Just in case you mess up, you can undo what you just did. I know this is painstaking, but you do it because the results are unbelievable. And the gray, like I told you before, it helps you with this. It helps you see better. Helps you see the spillage. Let's see, I messed up there. So I can go back. So you want to go all the way around. I'm trying to just hurry this up a bit. Because I know this is painstaking to watch. It's painstaking to do. But if you want your pictures to look great, you gotta put in the time. You're not doing production sketches at the moment with this stuff. And if you are, then you're working a lot faster than this. And it won't be as tight. So it would just be sketches. So I'm almost there. Just a little bit more. Now with this stuff, I'm basically pixel shifting, which means I'm hitting every pixel with my brush, basically, with my eraser. And it's just that she has such big hair. And I went out of the line a lot. And we're getting there. So what I'm going to do now is just make a deep outline so I can get a bigger eraser and just get a bigger eraser and just erase all of this without touching my paint. Okay. So now we have that done. We can go in, clean up her eyes. Oops. And we'll click save. Now we'll zoom in. We'll add a layer under the hair for the eyes. We can name this hair color. We'll name this one eye color. And we'll click save. So now for her eyes, pupils are black. And underneath her eyelid, she'll cast a shadow, so we'll put a gray in there. See, now this is where it becomes problematic, the background gray. Let's put gray. Basically the top of her eyes in here is casting a shadow. And the rest will make white. Don't worry if you mess up a little bit, you can always go back and fill that part in. Okay. Now, her eye color is blue. So I use like a mint green, which isn't exactly blue. And I'll just start with a small brush. Start rocking back and forth. And I'll rock back and forth over here too. I want it to look like an airbrush feel almost. Now I'll take a complementary color and I'll take my pencil. I'll just draw a line in between the green and the blue, the green blue. Go back, grab my white, same pencil, start making lines, pointing towards the center of the eye. Now go Back to my airbrush. Mizu has a Pac-Man looking eye. So you might have to go back. I'm going to add some light into her eyes. I'm going to have to go back to her ink. And I'm going to erase a little bit part of her eye. And I'll go back to her eye color. And we'll soften that up a bit. Remember, just press lightly around the eye. And you'll get yourself a nice soft look. The harder you press, the darker it goes. So now our eyes are done. And I'll click save. I'll do her lips. Go back to her skin. Zoom in a bunch. And her lips, I'll give it a coral red. Make sure the brush is small enough. And just get in there. Now go to your color library. Bring it down a bit. Get a dark color. This one go into the edges. Make it a little darker. And I've noticed that I've skipped on her chin, so I'll grab a color and I'll just add some color underneath her chin. And her eye, got a little too great at it. And her nose. And her nose would be a little darker. And now I'll add some highlights to her lips. Go back. Grab my light gray, my cool gray number 00. And I'll just add some light to her lips. Not too much. So now while we're here, I'll also click save. And now I want to make her cheeks a little rosy red. I'll grab on light rose, open up the airbrush a lot, and just slightly go over her cheeks. And make the brush smaller again. Grab my cool gray. And I'll start making little circular dots on her face. I usually do about 3 of these. First one being bigger, and then they get smaller and smaller. And maybe she might have some eyeshadow on. And just give it a processed blue. Just a big brush, not that big. And just go over her eye lightly, real lightly. And just over lightly. And you zoom out. And that's what you get. Click on save. And for right now, I think that will do it. You might want to go in there and change these ribbon colors a bit. maybe go kind of funky looking and do that in the hair color. Just go in there real quick. Remember, when you're creating characters, that you're gonna have to draw them over and over and over and over and over. So you might want to keep them a little bit simple. These days, when you're creating characters, you need them to also be able to be animated even. So just keep that in mind. And then, since these parts are more inward, I'll just make them a little darker. And I grab my white one last time, my cool gray, and right in the center I'll just lighten that up. It's a little hard, but just lighten it up. Maybe get a bigger brush, soften it a bit. And just soften it just enough. And there you go. We'll get into joint clothing and bodies, and we'll put them all together. For now, that's your Mizu, that's your lesson in coloring and drawing. Thank you for buying my book, and hope to see you guys soon. Take care.